Heavy metal first hit the airwaves back in the 1970s and 80s, but many of the elders of metal continue to rock, shred, thrash, and headbang today. These are the oldest living heavy metal icons. Without Tony Iommi, we might not have heavy metal music today. Known for his groundbreaking work in Black Sabbath, Iommi was born in 1948 in Birmingham, England. In the early days of the band, Iommi was also working as an arc welder until an accident ripped the tips of his fingers off.
I went to see various specialists and they said, you might as well pack up, you're never going to be able to play. I wouldn't accept that.
He eventually learned how to play using artificial fingertips that he created himself. Though he didn't realize it at the time, the accident would play an important role in shaping Sabbath's sound. At first, Iommi found the string tension to be too much for his artificial fingertips, so he found lighter gauge strings and detuned them, which eased the pressure. The lighter strings and unique detuned sound of his guitar are what set Sabbath apart from the pack. It gave them a heavy, evil vibe that created the now classic heavy metal sound. Iommi was with Sabbath throughout their entire career and appeared with them for their final concert in Birmingham in 2017. He was inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame in 2005 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame the next year. In addition to his time in Sabbath, Iommi has also had a successful solo career. For many old school fans, their introduction to heavy metal came courtesy of British fireballers Judas Priest. For most of their history, the band has been fronted by Birmingham native and lead singer Rob Halford, who's known for his biker-esque leather and chains outfits and screaming falsetto. Halford, born on August 25, 1951, joined Judas Priest in 1973 after his sister started dating the bass player. Throughout the 70s and 80s, Judas Priest is one of the biggest names in British heavy metal, with frontman Halford's lead vocals on anthems like Hellbent for Leather, Breaking the Law, and You've Got Another Thing Coming. In 1992, Halford left the band and embarked on a solo career. And in a 1998 MTV interview, he came out publicly as gay, becoming one of the few gay heavy metal icons.
I think that most people know that I've been a gay man all of my life.
Halford was dismayed by the rampant homophobia he saw during the 1980s, which made him reluctant to come out at the time, even though musicians from the hair metal scene, who were dressing in women's clothing and wearing makeup, didn't face similar backlash. In the early 2000s, after a decade away, Halford rejoined Judas Priest, and they're still rocking, with the tour of Europe scheduled for 2024. As the kings of the 1980s hair metal scene, Motley Crue is one of the biggest and most successful of all the LA heavy metal bands. Wearing spandex and makeup and sporting massive teased and styled haircuts, the Crue was synonymous with the excess and decadence of the hair metal scene. Born on April 4, 1951 in Terre Haute, Indiana, guitarist Mick Mars was the brains behind the heavy metal riffs that fueled staples like Girls, 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 Shout at the Devil, and Kickstart My Heart. As a teenager, Mars was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, a painful degenerative bone condition. It didn't stop him from performing, but it made things difficult, making his contributions to metal over the past 4 decades truly remarkable.
When you get the disease, you come from straight to being bent. It pulls you forward like this.
In late 2022, at the age of 71, and after 41 years on the road, Mars officially retired from touring with the band, citing his health struggles as the main reason. Unfortunately, Mars' retirement created a rift with his former bandmates in Motley Crue. They replaced Mars with guitarist John Five, touching off a messy financial dispute. But that doesn't erase the enormous impact Mars and the Crue made on heavy metal history. Known as the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne is one of the most influential heavy metal musicians of all time. Born in Birmingham, England on December 3, 1948, Osbourne has solidified himself as one of the gods of metal. He first came to prominence in the 1970s as the lead singer and frontman of Black Sabbath, but eventually parted ways with them and embarked on a successful solo career. Ozzy's first 2 solo albums were back-to-back hits, and he won a Grammy Award in 1993 for Best Metal Performance. Ozzy endeared himself to younger fans when he created Ozzfest in 1996, which helped now legendary metal acts like Slipknot gain their footing. Despite officially retiring in 1992, Osbourne continued to produce music, eventually reuniting with Black Sabbath, which netted him another Best Metal Performance Grammy. After dipping into reality TV for a few years, Osbourne was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2006. In 2017, Black Sabbath played their final show with Osbourne at the microphone, ending a nearly 50-year run. In 2020, he announced that he'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, but Osbourne has kept releasing solo albums, including 2022's Patient Number 9. Osbourne has retired from touring, but is still widely revered today by metalheads everywhere. As the lead vocalist for Iron Maiden since 1981, Bruce Dickinson has more than secured his place in the annals of heavy metal history. Dickinson, born August 7, 1958, in Worksop, Nottinghamshire, England, is known for his distinctive, nearly operatic voice. Though Iron Maiden was already popular when Dickinson joined, his vocals took them to new heights. The first album he appeared on was The Number of the Beast, which brought the band international success and solidified them as heavy metal icons. With Dickinson at the mic in the 80s, Maiden released some of the most acclaimed metal albums of all time, including The Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, and Power Slave. Dickinson left the band for most of the 1990s, during which time he played a famous concert in Sarajevo, Bosnia, at the height of wartime.
The need, you could have given everything, and you just felt like it wasn't ever going to be enough.
Dickinson returned to Maiden in 1999. Maiden quickly put out a string of new albums with him back on vocals and resumed their international touring. The band has managed to keep adding fans and connecting with younger audiences, ensuring Maiden will forever be played on metalhead stereos. In addition to being a musician, Dickinson is also an author and radio host. They might not have been the heaviest band of the era, but no one can doubt the popularity and impact of Def Leppard on 1980s heavy metal. Even today, Pyromania and Hysteria are beloved as metal classics, boasting such anthems as Pour Some Sugar on Me and Photograph. The band is fronted by iconic singer Joe Elliott, who was born on August 1, 1959 in Sheffield, England. In addition to his work with Def Leppard, Elliott had a successful solo career and collaborated with rock icons like Ronnie Wood and Alice Cooper. As a frontman, Elliott wowed fans each night with his powerful voice and eccentric stage antics. Even COVID-19 couldn't stop him. Leppard released 3 albums during the pandemic, all with Elliott on vocals. In 2023, Elliott and Leppard released Drastic Symphonies and toured with Motley Crue in a celebration of pure 80s heavy metal. Few names in heavy metal carry the respect of Dave Mustaine, the legendary founder and guitarist of Megadeth. Mustaine is from La Mesa, California, and was born on September 13, 1961. After being inspired by British heavy metal bands like Iron Maiden, he became part of Metallica. Unfortunately, tensions in the band and alcohol use soon led to Mustaine's dismissal. Mustaine countered by forming Megadeth, and in 1985, they released their debut album, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. As the primary songwriter for Megadeth, Mustaine churned out legendary metal albums throughout the 1980s and 1990s, including Peace Sells, But Who's Buying, Rust in Peace, and Countdown to Extinction. He's widely known for his virtuoso guitar skills, solid songwriting, and lyrics that range from war to politics to partying. Unfortunately, his substance use eventually took a toll, but Mustaine's been clean and sober since the early 2000s and has never abandoned Megadeth. He recently survived throat cancer, and in 2022, Megadeth and Mustaine released The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. Born on October 10, 1954 in Bloomington, Indiana, David Lee Roth has long been one of heavy metal's most iconic frontmen. Roth made his bones performing in Van Halen, where he carved out a unique niche despite standing next to one of the most legendary guitarists of music history. His voice was ferocious and electric, complementing guitarist Eddie Van Halen's pop-oriented heavy metal riffs. In addition to his incredible voice, Roth personified the heavy metal lifestyle, with his flamboyant dress and eccentric stage theatrics. Heavy metal hits like Hot for Teacher, Runnin' with the Devil, and Panama would not sound the same without his iconic voice.
They named an energy drink after my job description. Nobody ever said party like a rabbi.
In the mid-80s, Roth departed Van Halen to make a string of solo records, which started off well but eventually were less well received. In 1996, Roth and Van Halen had a one-night reunion for MTV, but it was more than a decade before they would reunite. They released the final Van Halen studio album, A Different Kind of Truth, in 2012, and their final live album, Tokyo Dome Live in Concert, in 2015. Since Van Halen's official end in 2020, following Eddie Van Halen's death, Roth has continued to perform, including a short residency at the Las Vegas House of Blues in 2020. Born on February 6, 1962, Axl Rose, the volatile lead singer for heavy metal band Guns N' Roses, is as controversial as his voice is golden. His high-pitched wails in the band's debut album, Appetite for Destruction, turned songs like Sweet Child of Mine, Welcome to the Jungle, and Paradise City into all-time metal classics. However, in the 1990s, after a string of successful albums, GNR faded into obscurity, with Rose as the only remaining original member. Despite a few reunions in the early 2000s, it wasn't until 2008 that they released a new album, Chinese Democracy. Rose continued to mix and match band members to replace the revered Appetite-era lineup until 2016, when the original band reunited on stage. Rose's controversial stage antics include frequently storming off stage and even canceling a St. Louis show to avoid arrest. Still, it's hard to say anyone has lived the rock star lifestyle more than Rose, making him one of the all-time great heavy metal frontmen. Since the early 1980s, thrash band Slayer has redefined what it meant to be truly heavy with heavy metal. Led by Chilean bass player Tom Araya, Slayer became one of the biggest names in 80s heavy metal within a few years of their debut. Their brand of metal was faster, more raw-sounding, and featured Araya's trademark screams for vocals. They were the antithesis of glam and hair metal bands, carving out a solid underground following before eventually tasting mainstream success in the 1990s. Araya remained in Slayer throughout their entire career, which ended with the farewell tour in 2019. During their career, the band was nominated for 5 Best Metal Performance Grammys and won 2. In a 2020 interview, Araya said that although he wants to, he can no longer headbang after major surgery that involved putting a plate in his neck. Though Slayer no longer tours, Araya will forever be a heavy metal icon. Lita Ford is one of the most legendary female heavy metal icons of all time. Ford was born on September 19, 1958 in London, England, and got her start in the rock band The Runaways with fellow icon Joan Jett. After the band split, Ford embarked on a solo career, shifting from rock to hair metal. Ford found huge success in the late 1980s. Her hits included Close My Eyes Forever, a top 10 single she recorded with fellow metal god Ozzy Osbourne.
We actually sang it looking at each other, and I realized at that point what a great vocalist Ozzy really is.
Ford continued to produce music through the 1990s and 2000s, though without the commercial success she enjoyed in the 1980s. Some of her other big-time metal hits included Falling In and Out of Love and Can't Catch Me, co-written with metal stars Nikki Sixx and Lemmy Kilmister. In 2022, Ford said she was working on a follow-up to her 2016 album, Time Capsule. Ford is still touring and performing live as of 2023, inspiring legions of new metal fans with her music. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357.